All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 26, 2023 Finance Executive Committee meeting. I'm Alex Wan. I'm chair of the committee. I'm joined to my left, Howard Shook, who's vice chair. To his left, Jason Winston. To his left, Marcy Collier-Overstreet. With that, we constitute a quorum. The meeting is now officially called to order, and I know that we'll be joined by other colleagues shortly. As the door opens, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. With that, let's go ahead and get started with the meeting. First item is to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion, please? Second. Motion from Shook, second from Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Next item is approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion, please? Second. Motion from Shook, second from Westmoreland. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The minutes have been approved. That now takes us to public comment. Do we have anybody signed up? Ms. Lindo.
One moment, Mr. Chair. You should.
I see one. Mark Quick. Mr. Quick, if you'll come up, you have 3 minutes. You'll see a timer going on the screens behind me. And as it winds down, if you'll wrap up your votes, that'd be great. Thank you. Please proceed. You have the floor.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for having me, Councilman, Councilwoman. My name is Mark Quick. I'm a lieutenant with the fire department. I'm just going to read this off, and then I'll have some comments directly from our heart. This legislation will protect the firefighter that is off duty and gets injured while taking action to help a citizen, like rescue them from a burning car or burning house, or in my case, stop to render aid to an accident victim. The likelihood of an off-duty incident happening are few and far in between. We only know of 2 incidents in the past 20 years where an injury occurred causing loss of work and hospitalization in the state. Our firefighters are going to take action, and every council member knows that. We have a skill set that can save lives, and it could be you or your family that we can save or protect. In return, all we're asking is for to be taken care of if an injury occurs. We stop and assist citizens and visitors all the time when we're off duty. Our promise to the citizens isn't something we can clock in or clock out. The timing is right for this. Florida has a similar legislation that covers first responders. Virginia has a legislation that is identical. California provides workman comp for their first responders nationwide. Please vote yes on this legislation. I have worked and I've been living here in Atlanta for the past, I'm gonna say 23, 24 years. I work for Hands On Atlanta. As some of you know, I used to work for Councilman Mitchell for about 8 years, and then I transitioned over to the fire department, which has been about 13 years. Last year I became a lieutenant, and I also became a registered nurse. So I have served the city in different capacities, and I love this city. I'm originally from New York, and but the opportunities that I've been able to experience here have been tremendous. My family loves it here, and I'm committed to this city. Oftentimes when we respond to medical or emergencies, there's a risk versus benefit. This is one of those things that when you're responding to something off duty, you don't want to, you don't want to consider that. You don't want to consider, what's the risk. We don't really want a benefit or reward, but just to know that we have support. So I just want to thank you all, for your time, and I really, like I said, I love the city, and if the opportunity rose again, I would do it again. So thank you. God bless you and enjoy your day.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Quick, and thank you for your comments. We'll take it under advisement when that paper comes before us. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, that concludes public comment. Now takes us into presentations, reports, and updates. First up will be the Georgia General Assembly update, Ms. Kenyatta Mitchell. She has a presentation. Mr. Massenberg, are you pulling it up? And colleagues, we have a copy of it as well. And we've been joined by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari.
Well, I heard that. It's me. So good afternoon, everybody. Kenyatta Mitchell. I gotta put on my glasses. I can't see anymore. Huh? Are those real glasses? I can see you now. Let me go back to our spot where I'm supposed to be. I gotta tell everybody who I am because I've gotten diverted. Good afternoon. My name is Kenyatta Mitchell. I'm the Intergovernmental Affairs Director for the Mayor's Office, and I am providing our overview of the legislative session. I want to pause for a second and thank some individuals who are represented by the companies on this slide. I got to move the slide. They are one of the reasons that our city remains whole and largely able to continue our mission of public service. Howland and Knight, I want to thank Marcy. She is our consummate leader, and we are a better city because of her work. The newest additions to our state team are Natalie Knight, Nick Giuliano, and Russ Pennington from Impact Government Affairs. They have been actively moving the needle in the General Assembly for us. But their greatest service, honestly, has been their relationships on the agency level. So EPD, they have great relationships with each of those. We will reap the fruits of their work for years to come, and I thank them all. Okay, this is not working. In terms of federal lobbying, we retain Howland and Knight on our federal team. They are doing our airport work, and the group is representing the rest of the city. The group is a minority-owned firm, and we're going to have them come down and speak to y'all on a later date, but I just wanted to let you all know that these folks are working every day for us in D.C. Now back to the state. On March 30th, the Georgia General Assembly adjourned for Sine Die. For the people at home who are like, what'd she just say? Sine Die means without day, which means there are no more working days, thus concluding a 2023 legislative session. This works out to about 57 bills per day. Now, mind you, the first month they didn't really work as much because we had new legislators, people were moving in and out of offices. So you think about how many pieces of legislation came by if the aggregate was 57 per day. Some of them were a page and a resolution, and some of them were multi-chapter documents changing our mental health system. So there was a lot of light reading this session for us in our government affairs team. We tracked hundreds of bills, and because I love you all, I will only go over a few of them. And I'll leave time at the end for any questions. Okay, so let's go. The amended budget. The amended budget, I wanted to point out, oops, sorry, went ahead too far. The amended budget, I wanted to point out that there is a little bit of money. There's going to be up to $500 per property owner on average that's going to be given back. This is a one-time payment, and these are for individuals who own their homes. So you could be expecting that relatively soon for the folks in the audience. House Bill 19 is the fiscal year 2024 budget. This awaits the governor's signature, which may include some line item vetoes, so all of these things may not make it in the end. But for the fiscal year that begins in July, as it currently stands, we are going to have money for behavioral health crisis center. I want you all to thank the House of Representatives and the Senate Democrats because our children are going to have free breakfast and lunch in school. That was taken out by the Senate, put back in by the House, and it was an issue, but it stayed there. There's going to be an increase in Medicaid EMS reimbursements, which is huge for our EMS providers. We're going to have a new Georgia State Patrol post in Buckhead. This is going to allow there's going to be a new Georgia State Patrol post in Buckhead. This is going to allow them greater access to Georgia 400, 75, and 85 on the north end of town. We are also getting money for our homeless outreach. services and resources to care for additional patients at Mercy Care. These are all huge. It's very rare that we get anything like this from the state of Georgia, and I'm very grateful that we've been able to obtain these different resources. It wasn't all good. The University of System took a significant budget cut. This will cause an increase in tuition. I brought this up not because we run the University System of Georgia, but because Atlanta is the largest concentration of students in the South. We will absolutely be affected. The next item is Georgia Public Broadcasting. Georgia Public Broadcasting is going to lose 10% of their budget this year. They are headquartered here in Midtown, so this will also affect folks in the city of Atlanta. I wanted to point those two out.
Yes, I can wait. I just wanted to understand the reason.
In terms of local legislation, we got some extra resources and services for our seniors. In Fulton County, there's no longer a requirement to reapply for homestead exemption every 2 years if you're a senior. This is great because a lot of folks would lose their exemption, not know why, and it's because they failed to reapply. In DeKalb, there is going to be an additional increase in exemptions, increase in income for exemption, that to be eligible for exemptions for federal and state tax in DeKalb County. These are two separate bills. I'm going to hold that up for folks on TV who are looking at it, just so they're aware of what they can are going to be able to receive the next year starting in July. So overview for the session. Because there are so many bills, I'm going to give kind of a world building, and we're going to talk about some bills individually. So the first world building item I want to bring up is that we are really experiencing in Georgia something that we hadn't experienced before at this level, which is the nationalization of politics. So the anti-trans bills are a great example of this. The amount of effort that was expended to further alienate a very small minority was disappointing, especially in light of all the things that we did not have time to finish. There's some mental health legislation that wasn't finished. The budget was not finished until the very last moment. This is the one thing the General Assembly has to do. There are lots of things that did not occur because we were spending an inordinate amount of time disenfranchising a really small minority that really does not deserve any of that. The second trend is legislators are all for local control and personal freedoms until they're not, right? So we saw this in both parties. When they don't like what local officials are doing, or industry lobbyists warn of problems that may come out in the future, they act, and sometimes very quickly. So I'll give you an example. In 3 hours, the Georgia House voted on a state board with powers to investigate, punish, or even oust elected district attorneys. They voted to ban cities from banning gas leaf blowers and gas stoves, which no one's doing. California did that, oddly enough, well, not oddly enough, but California did it because they have earthquakes. And when you have an earthquake and there's a gas stove, that's catastrophic. So they used the California model at saying that all these states are going to start banning everything. Well, really, California is pretty specific and pretty special because they do have earthquakes, and you don't want a gas stove on when there's an earthquake. But that's just one of the crazy examples that we're dealing with during the session. They also were trying to make cities enforce ordinances against sleeping on or obstructing sidewalks. So in 3 hours, we had 3 wide-reaching bills that really tried to really did strip local control from our cities across the state. Myself and the team at GMA fought against these, but again, these are, we didn't come together on a district attorney bill, but the other 2 bills we fought against, and we were able to make some good changes that make them not as harmful. Oh, sorry, I got doing 2 things at once, which is not easy for me. Third, there's been an effort to overturn Governor Deal's legacy criminal justice reform. Some of the bills have been excellent. Like, for example, there are improvements to transmitting criminal data information inside of the state. So instead of having the lags of time where judges were not aware of a person's criminal background, they're going to reduce that. So that's a really good bill. There's also some others that treat the people that we are afraid of, who should be in jail, unfortunately the same as the ones that who we are typically mad at, we could possibly rehabilitate and go on to a future that's better in service to the community. When we treat both of those groups the same way, we have unintended consequences and wide-ranging impacts that are hard to come back from. These do not necessarily get at the root causes of crime and do not necessarily make us safer. So that is another kind of negative impact of some of the trends that we've been seeing in the General Assembly. Finally, there's one really good trend that we're seeing. Our state swore in 85 lawmakers that are Hispanic, Black, Asian, or Middle Eastern this year. That's about 36% of the population of our General Assembly. This is when I started in the Capitol 20 years ago, this was just, there was very little diversity. This growth is prompting changes. So for the first time, the members have formed both a Hispanic and an AAPI caucus, Asian Pacific Islander caucus, along with the longstanding groups for women and Black lawmakers. This change has encouraged the governor to advocate for House Bill 128, which he signed. This bill streamlines the process for people applying for certification. So they're able to use their City of Atlanta certification to do most of the paperwork for state certification. That's a huge new item for business owners, so they don't have to go through all the additional paperwork of getting multiple certifications across the states. This is a big deal. The seventh slide, as I said earlier, we observed a lot of bills, and this is only a handful of what we've monitored. I'm not going to go over everything, nor am I going to go over everything that's highlighted, but please feel free to ask if you have any questions. I wanted to start with Senate Bill 62. Oh, wait, am I on the right page? Oh, okay. I wanted to start with Senate Bill 62. This is a bill that was what we termed anti-homeless legislation. This bill started out, frankly, evil. I mean, it was just a really bad bill. What it did last year when we started out working on this, and of course the bills die if they don't pass the second year of a biennial, they reintroduced this bill, but the bill in its original form last year would have, if the General Assembly or legislators felt that we weren't doing enough to prevent homelessness. Now, mind you, there were no metrics involved in this. This was just a gut feeling. They could have taken money away from nonprofits that were doing charitable work and receiving money from the City of Atlanta. So essentially, I would have had to pay for the sins of someone else. They had no control over it. We had no control over it, and they would have taken money away. So you would have had a church who was doing mental health or substance abuse work, and they would have immediately found their resources taken. So we were able to convince the Senate to create a study committee over the summer. The study committee came up with Senate Bill 62. It is not perfect, but it's gone from being a really harmful act to something that's more of an issue. I do want to point out something in this bill that we need to talk about and that we will need to address with the General Assembly next year. This bill does not allow hospitals to quote unquote dump people in other cities and counties. That sounds very good. The issue is if you have an individual who resides in Chamblee, so to speak, they went to Grady Hospital. There are no places in Chamblee for them to be housed or to be taken into. They could be penalized. Grady could be penalized for dropping them off in a Fulton County homeless shelter under this bill. It's really convoluted, and we can talk through some of the issues with this bill. But I will say, as bad as that sounds, it's taken away a lot of the really negative things that could have happened if this had passed in its current form. I am going to skip this slide, but let me know if y'all have any questions on it. Senate Bill 31, I wanted to bring this one up. For years, people have been paying fines to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. The money's never gone to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. It's gone to general operations. Now it has to go to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. So Representative Gail Buckner has been working on this for years. Do what? Okay, well, sure. Representative Buckner has been working on this for years. Oh, it is picking up, okay. Sure, okay. So I just wanted to let y'all know about that wonderful piece of legislation that we were able to get through finally this year. Trust me, I've been working on this for about 10 years, so I'm happy it's through. Senate Bill 215. This is another really good bill. This bill was kind of sprung up on us, and we were happy to help with it. This requires local governments within 30 days of a request to remove personally identifiable information. We've been having people who have been stalking our public safety personnel and have been stalking government employees for things that they've perceived that they've done wrong. This is allowing people to have their lives back and their privacy back, and we're very excited about this legislation. Again, this was not a City of Atlanta bill, but we were happy to support it once it came up. The 11th slide, I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about my little, what we call a zombie bill. This is a bill that you think you've killed, it comes back. You think you've killed it again, it comes back again. This is a truck weights bill. Why is this so damaging? Truck weights do two things. It's much more difficult for a heavier vehicle to stop. So we all took driver's ed and know the 3-second rule. That is, if you count 3 seconds and you're able to hit the car in front of you, you're too close. That is not the same rule when you have a truck this heavy. The second item is they destroy our roads. We were able to, and when I say we, I'm talking about our team, the City of Atlanta's team, as well as the Georgia Municipal Association, GDOT, we were able to carve in a prohibition that says two things. One, only ag and forestry products can come through with that additional weight. Previously, they were allowing construction trucks, garbage trucks, all kinds of vehicles that go up and down our city streets and roads. We pulled that out. We also, even more importantly, pulled out any trucks that have this additional weight from non-attainment areas. What does that mean? It means Metro Atlanta. So they're not able to come into Metro Atlanta at all because we are a non-attainment area. They also cannot go beyond 150 miles of the origin of that product. Many of these products come in through the port, come in through South Georgia, so we're outside of that radius. We gave ourselves what we like to call belts and suspenders, 2 layers of protection against this. But it is up to us. They have given us additional opportunities to enforce weight limits, but we need to get equipment for that to ensure that these trucks are not coming through our community. So it was a win that they're not coming into the City of Atlanta, but we still have to find good ways to prohibit trucks from skirting the rules here. So I wanted to bring that one up for all of your attention because I know you're going to have constituents talking about it. The weight increase is the equivalent of 2 SUVs. So this is a huge weight increase that they're putting on streets outside of Metro Atlanta. Senate Bill 146 is another drastic change in the General Assembly. This one is about electric vehicles. So currently, electric vehicles are charged based on the amount of time that they're charging. This new rule is going to charge based on the amount of electricity that they use. So it's very similar to how if you gas up your car, you get charged per gallon. Very similar logic. This also allows convenience stores to set up EV chargers, which will increase the proliferation of EVs. Where this is a bit of an issue is that in Georgia currently there's a $200 annual registration fee for EVs. So a person with an electric vehicle will be paying $200 for that registration fee, which is above and beyond what gas cars pay. And they'll be paying a similar tax to the gas tax. Right now, all of those fees will make Georgia a very expensive place to own an EV. And we are going to lobby next year to at least get that $200 fee in parity of what gas-powered cars are being charged right now. This really affects our low-income folks, and it really affects people who are on the fence about getting electric vehicles. The next slides are things that either failed. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting a bunch of notices. The next slides are things that either failed or did not get the requisite votes to pass. City of Buckhead City, which is something that we've talked about a lot. No, I didn't mess that up. It would actually have been called City of Buckhead City because there is a Buckhead City in East. There's a Buckhead City in East Georgia. Sorry, I keep getting. It's not letting me keep going. I don't know what's going on with my computer. I should have brought paper. So you would have to differentiate the city's names. Senate Bill 136, this was the City of Atlanta's bill. This legislation would waive the development impact fees. Thank you. We'll revisit this next year. It was given a hearing, but again, it ran out of time because we were dealing with things that probably weren't so important. Going on to House Bill 404. This is the first time in a long time that the state of Georgia has ever tried to do anything to codify tenant rights. This is a very difficult state for tenants, and this is why. This bill would have required landlords to provide tenants with units that are fit for human habitation. That's it. Although it did not provide a further definition. Georgia is only one of 3 states without this standard. While this bill still lacks some key provisions that other states have in place, it still would have made big strides to protect tenants in the state. We have almost no protections, and we will assist in any way to at least get this passed next year. I am going to pass on. I'm going to do a really quick federal update. We did get from Senator Ossoff. He has submitted our request for a Flint River pump. I want to let y'all know that, so that it's potential that we could get that pump in the next federal appropriation around September. And finally, my Democracy Fellow update. As you all know from the last time that we spoke, we have a Democracy Fellow. This Democracy Fellow was paid by funders. The City of Atlanta is not paying for this. This individual is to help our residents understand the importance of democracy and why one should participate fully. Dexter Smith is fully onboarded. He has reached out to many of y'all, and if anyone would like to sit down and talk about ways to further his efforts, please let us know. And thank you. And sorry about the hiccups with the presentation.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mitchell. With that, I'll open it up to questions from my colleagues. First up is Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Hi, Director Mitchell.
Hello.
Well, thank you for all of this. I know that legislative session could have been better, but arguably it could have been worse.
It could have been much worse.
Yeah. I just had a few follow-up questions. I was hoping you could kind of speak. I've had some constituents have to move out of state because they have children who are trans.
Yeah.
And if you could kind of speak to what the anti-trans bill did or is doing, and what that means for our families that may have.
So what the anti-trans bill does not do is if a minor is currently undergoing gender-affirming care, they can continue to do that. So it doesn't interrupt children who are going through gender-affirming care. Where it does interrupt is children who have not yet gone through that care. There is a misnomer about what gender-affirming care is. It is not as permanent as many folks in the General Assembly led people to believe, for the most part. Many of the things can be medically reversible, for the most part, if that were a choice. But this is another example of we like you to have autonomous control of your body until we don't, right? And that's what the General Assembly did in a nutshell. Point by point on that bill, it really is taking care decisions out of the hands of parents.
Thank you. I had a few people actually write me when that legislation was going, some that felt like they had no control over, were on the other side of like, the school did things without me for my child that expressed to the school that they wanted to go by a different name, go by different pronouns. And I think that just the important thing to always note with things like this is that to anyone who may have had a bad experience, I'm very sorry, but that gives none of us the right to tell other people what they can do with their children or with their own bodies. So I know that I will be trying to work with you to find out how the city can do more to express our disapproval of that legislation. And to anybody out there listening, I'm here to help in any way if you need anything. The other piece was if you could speak, I know there was a conversation about potentially reconvening for private school vouchers. And I'm a little concerned about that. And hoping there can be some education on what
So
that.
sorry.
Good,
So private school vouchers, that was one of the other things that took up a ton of oxygen. So one of the bills for private school vouchers would have allowed a student to have $6,500 to go to a private school. The issue there is you have to have the rest of the money, right? There's no private school that's that inexpensive. The second item is there's large swaths of the state that don't have private schools. And there's even larger swaths of the state that don't have private schools with openings. It may come back. They don't have the votes. They probably won't have the votes. So it'll be interesting to call a special session for something that would likely not have a lot of success.
Good to know. And just for parents, I got a lot of questions around this from concerned parents in my district. Also, I think the piece to note about this is that the more incentives that are given to get children into private schools, the more children that do not have that privilege or families who do not have that privilege are left behind in public schools, which are then further defunded, which then lowers that quality of education, which further sets up those children to fail when they become adults and inevitably end up turning to illicit activities or something else or end up homeless or without funding. So I would ask the individuals over there to play the tape all the way through and perhaps think, I know this is a big ask, maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and think about the future of our children rather than the future of a chosen few. And the other thing was, I know that it's a good thing that we have gotten more funding for some of our things around homelessness, and I just want to say for the record, don't CPCs receive more funding than they are putting towards combating homelessness?
Okay, say that again, I'm sorry.
I just find it very interesting. I mean, this is not on you, but I just want to state for the record, the funding, I want to say the funding that you said that occurred, they are only giving, I want to say it's just under $1 million. And I know that you said that was a great thing because they've never given money to coordinate homelessness in the Atlanta area and for Mercy Care, which is fantastic, but to simultaneously criminalize homelessness. And I know the governor was talking about urging us to do more around housing, but we're preempted by the state. Was there any efforts by the governor to try to relieve some of those restrictions so we can actually house people instead of, locking them up for not having money?
We remind folks as much as you could be humanly possible about the things that you just said. They are constantly hearing about what they're doing to make homelessness worse, while giving money to make it better. Not much money, but money. But again, once you're in the budget, you're in the budget.
Right.
It's easier to get an increase once you're there. It's hard to get there. And it's a firm acknowledgement that is an issue that needs a state assistance. So there's some good things there.
So we have our foot in the door, so you're saying it gives
That's
us.
exactly it.
That's good to hear. And there was one other last thing I'll ask about what worried me. I saw that there was a sign off from one of the legislators about gender-specific bathrooms, and it alluded to, I think, sexual exploitation, which to me talks, the wave that is now around drag queens in our state. I noticed that they put a note that that's what they'd be pursuing next session. Is that what we should be prepared for?
We prepare for all the nationalized arguments to come to Georgia. Again, there was a time when Georgia was kind of sealed off from a lot of these national issues because they would say that's not local, we're not worried about it. Those times have changed. So we are always prepared for any type of legislation that we think is going to come down the pipeline to preempt our local control from the state.
Yeah, I noticed that signing off, and it was also in his glory. I just want to denounce any weaponization of God against any minority. For those of us who have faith, as I do, that line disgusted me. In addition to that, I want to remind everyone that you have gender-neutral restrooms in your house. Okay, everybody has a gender-neutral restroom. You have one in your home. And I would say that white mass shooters are more of a threat than drag queens. And for any person who needs me to prove that to you, come on now, I'll take you to a drag show. I promise they don't bite. And I think it should be made mandatory for any one person that is voting to criminalize a drag queen should have to be forced to go to a drag show themselves. So I'll gladly help educate anyone if you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? I want to jump in on a couple of them. The sales tax on digital products?
Yes.
Do we anticipate any sort of trickle down to City of Atlanta? How does that work?
We do, we just don't know how much.
Okay.
Right, so I didn't want to, I put the statewide total. You could expect a decent amount coming into the city of Atlanta. The good thing about having that additional tax is not a tax for tax's sake, but once you spread the taxation across a lot of different items, you can reduce it on most, right? So the things that you are being taxed at, you're being taxed at a higher rate because other things aren't being taxed. And you may or may not utilize that thing that's not being taxed or being taxed. If you're able to spread it more evenly, almost like peanut butter across a bread, you get a little bit for everybody so that people aren't being unfairly taxed on products that we deem to be taxable and not as fairly taxed on other products. So this is really, I'm glad you asked that question because I didn't want it to look like, yay, we're taxing people. I don't want it to look like that. It's absolutely, these things are not being taxed and very similar things are. And it incentivizes and disincentivizes different groups.
And is that allocation based on geography of where the purchases are being made? That's right, right?
That's exactly it.
Yep.
So
All right.
however the cell phone or however you're paying for it pings is how the tax is being paid.
The other question, the issue about public information, personal information of public employees, that applies to all public employees, not just state employees, correct?
That's all public employees, yes.
Okay. And it's a simple request made to the jurisdictions or the municipalities' IT functionality?
So what it is, let me be a little bit clearer because that's a very good question as well, is there are third-party sites that say, hey, Officer such and such lives here and he did this, right? They may not live there, or they may live there, and they may not have done or may have done whatever you said. But you've put that person, their family, and their neighbors at risk. So now we are able to go to that third-party provider and say, take that information down and have legal standing.
So is that something that you initiate, for example, with AIM, our information management team here, in terms of the request, once you are aware of that, or?
I would assume it would go through legal because it would be a legal request for a third party. So this is not necessarily for the city of Atlanta. This would be for a Gawker type site or a site that would have that kind of information, you know.
Okay.
But I don't want to speak for legal if that's not true.
Hi, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. We will need to discuss internally as to who, from an operational standpoint, would lead with that for the City of Atlanta, which I agree completely with Director Mitchell that there would need to be direct legal input, even if law isn't ultimately the host or the home where that functionality resides. And we'll be moving forward with doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is important
expeditiously.
because I do think that folks are getting more and more bold in terms of actions they're willing to take against public employees, and I want to make sure we are affording every protection that we've been given by the state or authorized by the state for that. So great. That'll be just something we can follow up on. I think that, and then the last one was the Hazardous Waste Fund.
Yes.
So that's really good news, and I'm trusting that our folks either in Watershed or Public Works are aware of the opportunities that we might have to seek funding to fund some of our decontamination or mitigation efforts. Is that fair?
That's absolutely fair.
Okay. All right, other questions for Director Mitchell?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the offense and defense that y'all continually play on our behalf. It's not a fun game, but we're glad you're down there. Okay, that concludes that presentation, and we'll move right into the next one, Department of Customer Service Quarterly Update with Interim Commissioner Maisha Good.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman Wan, and greetings to all those that are assembled here today. This is our quarterly report, and I'm happy to share it. So, as a reminder, 311 serves has the primary contact channel for non-emergency services. So some of our core service areas are business licenses, water and sewer, garbage, recycling, parks, trees, streets and sidewalks, supportive services that work hand in hand with PAD, just to name a few, of course, municipal court. But our operations is open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we now have a chatbot channel that customers can also submit cases to, as well as call us and email and all those other ways that they can assess us. Some operational improvements that we've done. So we are still ensuring operational efficiency. This will allow us to cross-train our current agents to handle all calls. This maximizes our agents' productivity and allows them to field calls from a wider variety of customers with diverse needs. Secondly, effective management. We know we have to continue to strengthen our workforce to build a stronger team across the board and increase employee morale. So we've done this by implementing a new attendance policy. We've also created the Path Forward initiative to create a healthy call center environment. And we also pride ourselves in being transparent, providing a culture of feedback, daily motivation, effective communication, not only with our employees, but with our business stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders as well. And also we're defining career plans and mentorship programs for our employees. And lastly, we will continue to work closely with our departments where we're building out workflow management, communicating service level agreements and backlogs. And we're also working with these departments and their back office teams to ensure that we are in alignment with each other as we provide assistance to the cases that are received. And lastly, our goal is to always continue to handle any resolving or emerging services before they negatively impact our customers. Some operational highlights are for social media. They were just recently named a finalist in the 2023 Golden Post Awards for Best Social Media and Customer Service by the Government Social Media Association, so we are proud about that. And also, they have received, since the inception of their surveys, 234 responses this fiscal year, 59 responses from our community meeting feedbacks, and I would definitely go into these later in my presentation. And we have also attended 77 community meetings and events this quarter. Lastly, in this area, we have surpassed 27,000 mobile app downloads in March 2023. Our call center operations, they have increased overall productivity and exceeded all key performance metrics through successful implementation of innovative initiatives. And we've implemented a biannual employee satisfaction survey to incorporate all employee feedback. And thirdly, our customer service delivery team, they have referred over 287 cases to PAD, to Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation, 8, and then for Partners from Home and other organizations, we're looking at over 700. The other organizations that we work with in this area are United Way, City of Atlanta Emergency Shelter Referrals, excuse me, Atlanta Homeless Continuum of Care and Housing Follow-Up as well. For our personnel overview, what we're seeing is we have total positions that are budgeted 129, which is funded and unfunded. We have 87 positions that are filled. Our field rate percentage is at 69%. Our total vacancy positions are at 42. And this is because we have not hired any agents over the last quarter, but we will be doing so in May, June, July. Also, we're looking at the dismissals that we did have in this last quarter. One was a dismissal and one was a resignation. So we experienced 2 that moved on. Next is our turnover calculation, and we're ranging at 2.34%. So we're happy about that as well. Our call volume data, what we're seeing is that we're answering 80% of the calls in 60 seconds. So when January, February, and March, we're ranging between 34,000 and 39,000 calls that has been presented to us each month. For the supportive services team that work hand in hand with PAD, they're ranging approximately 850 to over 1,000 calls that have been presented to them. Our call stacks, our average handle time per call has been ranging about 5 minutes, 7 seconds. Our average speed of answer has been about 17 to 29 seconds. So that long hold time that we had last time I was here, we have definitely beat that. Our post-call survey results. This is for ATL 311's feedback. So we're averaging a 92% overall customer service experience, and this covers our IVR, the customer's overall experience, if the representative was friendly and knowledgeable, and how likely are they to recommend us. So we're doing well in that area. Some top 5 cases that we're receiving from January to March. So for DWM, I would just highlight probably the top 2 or 3 in each of these areas. And these departments that I'm highlighting are our 7 departments with the highest call volumes. So DWM, their top 3 are account information for active water and sewer account, property owner or renter request to establish new water and sewer services account, and Department of Watershed Management's case status inquiry. So they're ranging upwards from 1,000 to 9,000 calls in this area. For Public Works, their top 3 is bulk collection request, which is over 5,000 calls we received last quarter. Next is damaged garbage cart replacement and missed residential garbage, which are both over 1,000 calls received. For municipal court, I failed to appear at court. When is my court date time and how much is my court fine and how do I pay are their top 3. And they're ranging from over 5,000 to 8,000 calls in those areas. For code enforcement, their top 1 is private property only, and then their second one is code enforcement exterior structural damage. For finance, their top 2 are business license renewal, which is they're in that season now, in registering a new business in the city of Atlanta. So we're seeing upwards of over 1,000 to over 2,800 calls last quarter. For Department of Transportation, their highest is potholes, and we received over 2,000 calls. And we've also noticed an increase, a 15% increase from last quarter as well, with customers calling in about potholes. And lastly, our supportive services team, their top 2 calls are basic needs, which is transferred to PAD and United Way 211 number. Our Notify ATL campaign, which is also known as Everbridge, we sent out about 418 campaigns in this area. We subscribed over 1,700 new subscribers, and currently we have about over 20,000 subscribers, and this is an opt-in software. But the 2 that we sent out the most messages for were severe weather and DPW bulk pickup reminders. For social media data, they received over 1,000 cases last month and over 1,400 messages received for case or messages for case submissions. Their top social media handles are Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But Instagram and Twitter are neck and neck almost. So that's quite unusual, but good in a way as well, because usually Twitter is number 1 for us. So right now we're at over 13,000 followers. On this slide, we also highlight the kudos that team has received, because they typically have a 2-day SLA, but they turn it around sometimes in 24 hours with responding to a customer. So we're proud of the work they're doing. Our chatbot data. So we started a pilot in November 2022. We officially launched in February 2023. On this slide, you would see that some of the top cases we've received is bulk collection requests, potholes, missed residential garbage, damaged garbage cart replacement, and damaged recycling cart replacement. This is coming through our portal, our mobile app, and IVR are where the cases are coming in through. For our survey feedback, and again, these areas are fairly new for us in receiving this information, but overall, we have received over either 4 out of 5 or 86% or higher. We did receive a 1.9 out of 5 for our back office survey responses, and this is because it's email, fax, or web. In some cases require that type of submission. For back office and escalations, they have processed over 3,059 cases and escalated 932 departments. And this team does a great job in escalating matters that are received from senior officials, city council, customers, et cetera. So their top 5 cases in our back office team is mostly code enforcement. So they receive a lot of private property cases and exterior structural damages. And then their second one in this area is Department of Finance with business license renewal and ATL Core. And then their third highest is around public works. So they receive a lot of around book collection requests. Their top escalations that we're seeing from departments is in DPW, ATL DOT are the top 2. And also, we've noticed that the escalations have decreased tremendously with the departments. So we're happy to see that overall from Finance, Public Works, and ADOT. So kudos to those departments. So some technology enhancements. As I stated before, we did launch our chatbot in February of 2023. Currently, we have over 800 plus use cases to serve our customers in our web portal, our IVR, and mobile app. We did do some focus session or group sessions. So this is where we invited city council and their staff, departments, and constituents, and we received pretty much some of the same information from each of the groups. So some of the information we received were removing confusion back buttons at the bottom of the mobile app, search city information without being automatically directed to a chatbot, and launching the chatbot only when user selects chatbot icon, recognizing an address, transferring user contact information to chatbot if user is logged into mobile app, and sending case creation confirmation via text. So we are working closely with AIM and our vendors to ensure that these areas are addressed as soon as possible. The vendors have provided some feedback that most of this will require integration into ServiceNow, so that would take a little time, but they will complete 2 out of those that are listed here very soon. In our future releases, we will have a live agent transfer. So those that come into our web portal, they will have the ability to say, hey, I want to speak to a live agent. So we'll have that available as well. And then lastly, language translator, because we want to ensure that we have multiple languages for all. And lastly, our new CRM, we are in the process of working closely with procurement, and we hope to identify a vendor by June, July, and deploy or launch that end of year, early next year. So, but the goal is to replace our existing CRM application with a more robust end-to-end solution. And before I close, I just want to say happy Administrative Professional Day to my team and to all those that serve our city, and make sure our departments are running smoothly. And just a kudos to the 311 team for all the great work they do every day. So at this time, are there any questions?
All right, questions for the interim commissioner? All right, I am gonna jump in then, starting with page 9, all statistics, the average handle time. So I just want to understand the statistic. This is if I call in, it's answered within half a minute. And then as I talk to you and hey, this is what I'm calling about, the person on the other line is recording it, making the case number, and we're wrapped up in 5 minutes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I understand what the end-to-end actual inclusion is on that. So I have been getting some emails about lengthier times and folks getting put on hold during that process. What would precipitate that?
And so we have a customer contact center. So those, for instance, that call us for some watershed management calls will have to be transferred there.
Okay, so that's usually where, potentially where things are getting gummed up, is once it's gotten transferred to the
transfer.
department, then, so we may have a little bit of work we need to do there in terms of issue resolution once it goes out of the switchboard from
From us to watershed. So that's probably where the lengthy time is coming from.
So how are y'all addressing that? I mean, how can y'all even track that statistic to know which departments have bigger bottlenecks?
So the Ames Telecom team works closely with both departments. And so what we do is we review our data with their data and vice versa. So we meet fairly regularly with them. And as we get any concerns, we'll send it over to them. So we do have a very close working relationship. So we're tracking it through our CRM system and through our phones.
So I'm going to ask a tough question here. So if I were to take this table, can we add another column that says, once it gets transferred to Public Works or Watershed, how much longer, the additional time that the customer is on the phone?
holds. Yes, we could do that.
Okay, because I'm hoping that's something that y'all are looking at on a regular basis, because then, again, the last thing we want is for them to move through y'all very quickly and then still not get the issue resolved, right? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know, maybe that's something we can talk about offline, but yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see those numbers. The post-call survey results, are those conducted as soon as the 5 minutes are done?
Yes, so they have the opportunity to opt into the survey after the call, at the beginning of the call.
Okay, so is it after the 5-minute interaction, or is it after they're done with the department?
After they're completed the call with the agent, then they are transferred to the survey.
Okay. So what sort of effort is done to dive deeper into the strongly disagrees and very dissatisfieds? Do we ever reach back out to them, go, hey, what happened? Why?
So those that we don't understand, so what we do is we send a monthly compliments and complaints log or data metrics to the departments, and their teams do a deep dive into that. For those that we don't understand, we will reach out. So even if it's community level, we at an MPU meeting, we get something, or it's coming through our phones or whatever it is, we make sure that we reach out to make sure that customer is okay.
I think that would be helpful, because again, that might capture what I'm getting at, or what I'm hearing is that, oh yeah, once we get transferred to the department and, we get into this vortex that never to be, reemerge. And that'll help everybody identify, where the other pinch points are. And then on top of that, the other feedback that I get is that, well, great, I've made it through the system on that first call. I've got a case number, and it's the thing that we've talked about a lot, is that check back with me in 30 days and the problem still hasn't been taken care of, or worse, the case number shows that it has been taken care of. So I feel like we still haven't cracked that nut yet. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that piece.
So most of those calls are code enforcement calls, and it does take a little longer for resolve. So what we do is we do send that data again to code enforcement, and we do keep track of it in our system and in Acela as well to update the customer.
Yeah, you've heard me say, I feel like this is such a great tool. It can be a great tool. It's all about the execution. And that's why I'm somewhat focused on the not so positive results, because that's where, I really feel like that's where we got to invest our energy. You're doing some great enhancements to add the customer interaction and interface experience, but it's more important, in my opinion, to get the situation, the problem resolved.
Yes, I agree. And this is why it's important that we get a new CRM, because that's integration is key to us, right? And so that we can be able to see exactly each of our data is all in one place. The systems are aligned together, but right now it's a little broken because we have to pivot to so many different systems. But the goal is to resolve that in the new fiscal year.
And then my final question is, the mobile app has now been fully deployed, right? And aside from some of the things, improvements, well, even the improvements you listed on here in terms of based on the feedback, those have also been deployed as well, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay, so that's
Yes,
coming.
so that has, many of those have to be integrated into the system. So AIM and 311 are working closely with the vendor
Okay.
to hopefully get those matters taken care of fairly soon.
So when you say very soon, are we talking 30, 60 days, or are we talking?
It depends.
Fairly
So,
soon.
we're looking at level of effort and funding. But we do.
Nice plug there, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So once we determine those two, we will definitely have an answer for you all.
Okay, all right. I'm glad to see the movement and improvement. I think, again, let's just continue leaning in. I feel like the public has been very patient with this because they see the value too, and we kind of get one chance to get this right. Again, focusing on those that have not had good experiences to see what gaps we can shore up, and then also making sure that we've addressed the actual resolution piece of the problem, that it's not just, oh, I filed it, so, but it's going to continue to churn there and nothing's ever going to happen, so. Okay.
We are in alignment, and we truly, want the best for our customers, and so we're working very hard every day to make it happen.
All right, Councilmember Bakhtiari, you have the floor.
Don't worry, I'll be quick. Just real, they're being shady back here. Don't mind them. Real quick, so as of right now, I believe we talked about this recently, Watershed and DPW operate on a separate system.
So DPW is on the same system as us.
Okay.
And Watershed does use ServiceNow, but they also have different systems, other systems we have to pivot to. Code enforcement works on a different system, Acela. And ADOT is on our same system.
And so essentially, but for those who are on a different system, you have to close out, then forward over to them, and that starts an entirely different process?
For code enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I would say that also plays a role with Councilmember Juan, what you were bringing up. How do we help to rectify the situation? And for the record, I am completely technologically ignorant, so I'm going to need assistance. That's why I'm asking, what can we do to help streamline efficiencies?
Yeah, so our goal is to get the new CRM. That's what we determined after just looking at so many different avenues. We did close out some of the notifications that customers were getting, saying, hey, your case has been closed. So we resolved that issue, because what we were seeing is that when someone submitted a new case on top of a case that were already submitted, they'll get a notification saying, hey, your case is closed, but in actuality, it wasn't. So the goal is to align it with a new CRM and to bring everyone into one system, or to integrate their system into the new CRM.
Okay. Did you hear that, Councilmember Juan? And the other piece, last question, you know how happy I am that everybody, all the call folks for 301 are, name the certification again for me, HMIS?
HMIS.
Yes, meaning they can do referrals for people who are unsheltered. But I know that y'all have taken, 301 is beginning to take low-lying offenses off of 911's plate.
Yes.
Have you all seen any increase in funding since you started taking over?
No, so we will see some funding increase in the new fiscal year, so we do ask for all of your support. And so that's where we hope to see the increases at.
Thank
But
you.
yeah.
Don't worry, Deputy Chief, I'll give you a call. Thanks, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Just wanted to check in, and thank you all for helping with
No
that period.
problem. It's our pleasure.
Other questions or comments? I will, now that you mentioned, I just realized this is probably like the choice. Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have an update? Hi, and thank you so much for your presentation today. Do we have an update on PAD going 24/7?
So we are working with the administration on that. So we have not determined a date, but there are conversations about moving towards that way, especially when the divergence center has deployed or launched, but we are working closely with PAD to determine that.
Okay, because that was one of the reasons why we did the 4.5 million for them. And they are also doing something with Fulton County as well, who is actually, Health and Human Services. So it's been months and months now, and we've been saying that we're working through it. But I recently tried to contact Pat on Sunday, not this past Sunday, but a recent Sunday, because of a pregnant lady in a park that I worked with Commissioner Khadijah with Fulton County to get the lady to a place. So, I'm trying to figure out where we are with that.
Yeah, so the PAD team, which is a nonprofit that we work with, they are in the process of, increasing their workforce as well. But we would definitely share with Moki, the executive director, your concern about Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, and I reached out to her.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. And she contacted me on Monday and said that they were closed for the weekend. And that's why I thought we were moving past that, because, homelessness and Health and Human Services happens every day, all the time. So we need a either more permanent solution that happens all the time, or we need to let those that deal with Health and Human Services do it well.
Understood. And so we'll continue to work closely with Moki and her team and with the administration. So hopefully next time I present, I'll have a date or so for you, or just a timeline of some sort.
Yeah, okay, thank you, because that's a hefty budget slice to use for just Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, or whatever those numbers are. We're gonna have to get that around the clock or figure out something else. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for interim commissioner? Good. All right, up, Mr. Westmoreland.
I'll just chime in. I used 311 this morning, and it worked really well.
Oh, thank
As
you.
did Pat, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you all.
All right, thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Have a good day. All right, colleagues, that concludes our presentations, and we'll start moving through our agenda as quickly as possible. First up, under the consent agenda, are ordinances for first reading. We have 4 items to sound. Ms. Linda, if you would do the honors, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. First item is 23-0-1215. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to correct ordinance number 21-00396, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on July 6, 2021, and approved pursuant to City Charter Section 2-403 on July 14, 2021, for the purpose of transferring funds from the General Government Capital Outlay Fund for the purpose of constructing a SWAT building to correct the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Item number 2 is 23-0-1216. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to correct ordinance number 22-0-1516, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on July 5th, 2022, and approved pursuant to City Charter Section 2-403 on July 14th, 2022, for the purpose of transferring funds from the General Government Capital Outlay Fund for the purpose of constructing a SWAT building to correct the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Item number 3 is 23-0-1217. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee adopting the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget to include all funds and for other purposes. Item number 4 is 23-0-1225. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer on behalf of the Department of Public Works to pay outstanding invoice numbers listed herein for temporary supplement labor to Center for Employment Opportunities, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $4,012.50, and to Environmental Differences LLC in an amount not to exceed $30,819.69. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Linda, and we'll address those during the next cycle. That takes us to ordinances for second reading. First item is 23-01187, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend Section 14626B, C, D, E, F, and G of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta so as to change the ad valorem tax rate of real and personal property for the general levy, debt levy, city parks levy, school operating levy, school debt levy, the special tax district levy, and the Atlanta Beltline Special Service District levy, to provide that the tax rates established herein shall remain fixed each year until amended or repealed and for other purposes. If there's no objection, I'll also take 23-01188. Ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend Chapter 114 Personnel, Article 4, Classification Plan of the Code of Ordinances, City of Atlanta, Georgia, so as to provide for certain position abolishments, creations, reclassifications, class creations, above entry authorizations, employee position transfers, position funding allocation changes, and other personnel actions in line with the FY 2023 budget and for other purposes. That actually should be 2024, so we'll have to amend that when it comes back up. Because these are FY '24 budget papers, we'll need to hold that. I'll make that motion, seconded by Shook. Let's open the vote to hold, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. These two items will be held. Next item is 23-01189, ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a sole source agreement, number listed, Department of Parks and Recreation, employee parking services with Park Place Operations, Inc., to rent parking spaces at parking lot 38 and parking lot 4549, located at 213 Peachtree Street Southwest and 225 Prior Street Southwest, as further described herein pursuant to Section 2-1191 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation for a term of 3 years commencing retroactively on March 1, 2023, ending February 28, 2026, in an amount not to exceed $50,000 annually, with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $50,000 annually, authorizing all expenditures to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Voss, if you will come and tell us about this paper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council. Doug Voss, Department of Parks and Recreation. A little over 2 years ago, Department of Parks moved from our former location at Peachtree Center to 160 Trinity, which is basically just 2 blocks up the road. We're very happy there, but we do not have parking for both our fleet vehicles and for staff parking. We have researched a number of lots in the area, and within a short distance found 2. One is at 213 Peachtree and one is at 225 Prior. And it can accommodate up to 40 vehicles at this time for both fleet and personal vehicles. DEEM is currently working through, my understanding, a larger parking solution, but this is an interim. Right now, we actually don't have locations for our actual DPR vehicles to park at our locations. So as stated, this is a $50,000 a year for 3-year agreement. Hopefully by that time, there'll be a larger solution, but we feel it's a good interim solution.
Questions or a motion? Motion from Shook, seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open the vote to approve, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, 23-01190, ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to require that all city departments responsible for administering a state or federal grant awarded to the City of Atlanta shall prepare a 90-day accounting report for grants where at least 10% of the awarded funds are undispersed, and to include a plan of action for dispersing the funds prior to the expiration of the grant award period and for other purposes. The motion is to hold per the author. It's seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item will be held. All right, colleagues, without objection, I'm going to take 10, 14, 16, 17, and 19 together. They're all council carry forward transactions. First one, 23-01193, ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wan authorizing the transfer of $5,000 in percents from the Council President Carry Forward account to the Council President Distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. Item 14 is 23-01205, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,500.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry forward account to Hands On Atlanta and for other purposes. Item 16, 23-01207, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $5,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry forward account to Zoo Atlanta and for other purposes. Number 17, 23-01208, another ordinance by Councilmember Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $15,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry forward account to Propel Atlanta and for other purposes. And number 19, 23-01210, not wanting to miss out on the party, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari authorizing the transfer of $20,000.00 from the Council 5 District 5 carry forward account to the council District 5 distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. Any questions or a motion? Motion from Westmoreland, seconded by Bakhtiari on all papers. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Those 5 items are approved. Next item is 23-01194. Resolution.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I skipped one.
respectfully, you skipped number 9. Perhaps we can take 9 and 11 together?
All right, without objection, I will take those two papers together. First is 23-01192, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Vaughn, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed blank from the District 6 carry forward account to the Morningside Lennox Park Association and for other purposes. And number 11 is 23-01194, ordinance by Councilmember Alex Vaughn, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute professional services agreement number listed, insurance, brokerage, and consulting services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport pursuant to Section 2-1163 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances with Southeast Series of Lockton Companies, LLC, to ratify certain actions taken from March 14, 2023, to provide insurance, brokerage, and risk management consulting services specific to the Department of Aviation, including the owner-controlled insurance program, for an initial term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed blank for the entire initial term, payable on an annual basis in an amount not to exceed blank during the initial term and blank for each optional renewal term. All services to be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make the motion to hold both items. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Those two items will be held. All right, 23-01199, we have a substitute for it, but the caption is the same, so I'll read it in and then make the motion. It is an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone, as substituted by Finance Executive, correcting ordinance 23-01087, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on February 20, 2023, and approved as per City Charter, Section 2-403 on March 1, 2023, by deleting the incorrect funding source and replacing it with the correct funding source and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us. Comments on those?
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. Monica Prothrow, Deputy Director, Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. And so this paper is to funding for the Atlanta Jazz Festival that you approved previously, and is to correct the funding source that's listed in the adopted paper.
Any questions? Motion from Shook to approve on substitute, seconded by Collier Overstreet. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved on substitute.
Thank you.
Next item is 23-01204, ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis to waive Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910, grant application to ratify the City of Atlanta's submission of an application for the Research Improving People's Lives Opening Workforce Doors Grant Program for pro bono system and staff support from the Ripple Opening Workforce Doors Grant Program, which shall be utilized to develop a platform that has tracking and reporting capabilities as well as applicant registration and job matching functionality to support the Summer Youth Employment Program, to accept the grant award of pro bono system and staff support from the Ripple Opening Workforce Doors Grant Program, to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into any required agreements necessary for the implementation of this award and for other purposes. Mr. Donald, I believe you were going to come speak to this.
Alrighty. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, this is probably not the most fun part of our workforce development activities because it's talking about systems and things of that nature, but this is a very exciting workforce development endeavor for us. The DOORS program is headed by the U.S. Department of Labor and Ripple, which stands for Research Improving People's Lives. And the purpose of these systems are actually, it's a grant program for states. City of Atlanta would be the only local recipient of this grant activity, and it would basically bring together all of our outdated systems and things of that nature, so that for our summer program, instead of us doing kind of hand-to-hand combat, finding a youth who wants to be connected with, let's say, Coca-Cola, and us kind of one-to-one figuring out if they're a match, the system would help us do that for the thousands of youth that would go through our summer program. But once the summer is over, it would actually expand and help us connect both the system geo solutions that we are a part of with the state, as well as some of our local systems. So in the new Department of Labor, all of our systems, people, documents, and everything would not only talk to each other, but also have a very high level of security and protection for people's personally identifiable information. So the purpose of this grant is to really accelerate that, as well as our workforce capabilities. So if you have any questions on it, would definitely take those at this time.
All right, questions for Mr. Donald? Motion from Shook, second from Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Thank you.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Thank you, Mr. Donald. All right, Ms. Lindo, I'm looking at this. I found a substitute for 1193 that from the council president carry forward. And there's some additions to that. Am I correct?
That number 18, I believe.
No, that's number 10. Is that correct? So we need to reconsider that one?
Yes.
All right, I'll
That
make a
was-
motion to reconsider, seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. All right, that paper is now before us again, and there is a substitute. Caption has changed. I'll read it in to make a motion to bring forward the substitute. So this is an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wan, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the transfer of $5,000.00 from the Council President Carry Forward account to the Council President Distribution account, the transfer of $20,000.00 from the Council District 7 Carry Forward account to the Council District 7 Salaries Perm Part-Time account, transfer of $20,000.00 from the Council District 12 Carry Forward account to the Council District 12 Salaries Perm Part-Time account, the transfer of $20,000.00 from the Post 3 at-large Carry Forward account to the Post 3 at-large expense account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. I'm moved to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute is before us. Any questions? I'll make the motion to approve the substitute, seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, number 15, we got a issue with, too. It's 23-01206. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $2,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large Carry Forward account to Midtown Neighbors Association and for other purposes. The substitute doesn't reflect the addition, so I'll make a motion to move this forward on condition, the condition being we'll have the proper substitute that adds District 2 and District 6 funds. We need the account numbers and all that.
Mr. Chair, I believe I understood that District 6, there was an email sent, has already made a donation.
We did?
Yeah.
Wow, I know. That's, okay. Yeah. Wow, that's impressive, yeah. Yeah, Alex shining today. So actually, Mr. Shook has a good point. Can we put this to the side maybe? Is there a way that we can get the right substitute for it by the end of the meeting? That adds District 2's money?
Yes. So
Okay, all right. I forgot he's motivated to get everything on consent. All right, let us keep going then. Number 18. Um, 23-01209, there's supposed to be a substitute. I don't see one. ones? So I have a set as chair, and I don't know if they do or not. So I don't have the substitute for a number, so let's skip that one and come back. All right, so we got 15 and 18 that we'll come back to. All right, let's go ahead and take on 23-01212. There is a substitute for this. I'll read in the caption and make the motion to bring it forward. This is an ordinance by council members Liliana Bakhtiari, Amir Faroki, Byron D. Amos, Andrea L. Boone, Matt Westmoreland, and Antonia Lewis, as substituted by the Finance Executive Committee. An ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 4, Sections 2-1190 and 2-1190.1 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to increase the dollar limitations for small purchases from $20,000 to $100,000 for purchases which may be paid out of the petty cash fund allocated to the department under a duly enacted appropriation from $50 to $500, and for micro purchases from $5,000 to $25,000 and for other purposes. I'll make the motion to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. The substitute is before us. Is the Chief Procurement Officer in here with us? Okay, I'm going to ask, and I should have mentioned this to the author, I'm going to ask that we hold this and continue some conversations. I'm supportive of it, but I do. No, okay, just to do a little more research and be able to open a conversation with the CPO as well.
Yes, and real quick, to that, on that note, Ms. Robinson, would you mind explaining the amendment that we made and why also, so that that is factored into the conversations moving forward?
Yes, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta, Department of Law. The amendment, the most substantive amendment that's contained in the substitute reduces the amount proposed for the small purchase limit from $250,000 to $100,000. I can't speak to the policy considerations for that reduction, though I can state that at $250,000, there was a conflict with the code that requires legislative approval of any contracts of $100,000 or more. So therefore, a small purchase could theoretically require legislative action. This amendment, the amendment to reduce it from $250,000 to $100,000 addresses that conflict.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Just real quick, the spirit of this was to streamline this a bit so that we could do faster bid out processes, but also we legislate everything over 100,000, so it made sense to lower that amount, and this seemed like a fair compromise, and also would improve our bidding process and shorten time turnaround for our contracts.
Right.
So that was the
Thank
thinking
you.
behind
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I agree with this in concept, just want to work on the sausage a little bit more. I'll make the motion to hold. Is there a second? Second from Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 1 nay. Motion carries. Item is approved. All right, that takes us to resolutions. The first one is 23-R3402. Resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos requesting the Chief Financial Officer divert interest yield from the $3 million Council District 3 Infrastructure Bond discretionary funds to support additional services for District 3 and for other purposes. The author is not here. I know that, yes, Deputy Commissioner, or CFO Carm, if you want to speak to that. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm rattled by what just happened over here.
No worries. So we're requesting for this to be filed because when we looked at this paper, we noticed that the interest earning has to be spent for the bond proceeds and the projects that were already a part of the original referendum. But I also have Chief Knight, who's in the audience, who has a little bit more detailed information regarding this.
Yeah, as he's coming up, Councilmember Overstreet.
Yeah, just right quick, did you guys just let Councilmember Amos know that you need to file this?
I do believe that we contacted the director of that office, but we'll make sure we continue to follow up.
Director of what office?
So city council staff? Chief of staff.
Oh.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
okay.
Mr. Knight, if you will address or share some more information.
Yeah, good afternoon, Courtney Knight, Chief of Treasury, Debt and Investments. Deputy CFO Carr stated it accurately. You remember when we had the referendum for the bonds that were sold last November. In that referendum, all of the Moving Atlanta Forward projects were identified. According to state law, interest earnings on those bond proceeds are the same as those bond proceeds. And so that money has to be spent for the projects that were identified in the referendum. And this proposed legislation doesn't do that.
Yeah, other questions or comments? We don't have a motion on the floor right now, but do we want to hold this and just to give time for us to circle back with the author?
Mr. Chair, I did speak to author, and he authorized that he was.
Oh, he's fine with
yeah.
it, so, okay.
I still
Yes,
have
you
one
still
more
have the floor.
question.
Yep.
So legally, could we, divert this interest? I'm just wondering.
Ms. Robinson, you want to address that?
Yeah, well, if yes and no, that there was a proposed substitute that law worked on with finance and Invest Atlanta to ensure that what was stated as required by law was not violated. So that's not to say that this paper couldn't in spirit somewhat move forward. However, in light of the advice or decision of the author to request that it be filed, the substitute was not brought forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh. All right, there's a motion from Westmoreland to file. It was seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item will be filed. Next item is 23-R3406. There is a substitute for this that changes the caption. I'll read it in and make the motion to bring it forward. It's a resolution by Councilmember Alex Juan. It's substituted by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of $87,011.34. All funds to be charged to and paid from fund department organization and account numbers listed and for other purposes. I'll move to bring it forward, seconded by, actually, Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us. Any questions or a motion? I'll move to approve on substitute, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote. Are you opening the vote? But are you opening the vote for the approval? Oh, that was. Oh my God. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. The item is approved on substitute. Yeah,
You guys are
this is
fast today,
something-
Mr.
I don't know what's going on here.
You guys are fast today.
All right, number 23 is 23-R3415, a resolution by council members Marcy Collier Overstreet and Dustin Hillis, authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number 6 for contract number listed, citywide architectural planning, design, engineering, and construction phase services with Harrison Smith LLC for design services for the construction of Fire Station 31 on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $637,345.00. All work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. Commissioner Santil.
Greetings, council member and committee members. Remy Santil, Commissioner of Department of Enterprise Asset Management. This legislation is as stated, is to begin the design process for Fire Station 31.
Questions for the commissioner? Motion from Shook. Is there a second? Seconded by Overstreet. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item is 23-R3419, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet to find and declare that the City of Atlanta Tax Allocation District Number 4, Princeton Lakes, is substantially complete based on achievement of the significant objectives of the Princeton Lakes redevelopment plan, to find and declare that all redevelopment costs have been paid, to direct and cause the dissolution of the City of Atlanta Tax Allocation District Number 4, Princeton Lakes, to cause any funds remaining in the Princeton Lakes TAD Special Fund to be paid to Fulton County and the city's general fund in proportion to the respective total contribution each jurisdiction made to the fund and for other purposes. Colleagues, we do have an amendment for this that inserts language around a dissolution date of June 30th, 2023. I'll make the motion to amend. Okay. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open the vote to amend, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is amended. All right. Councilmember Overstreet, I don't know if you want to speak to this, or do we want to have I believe we have, Invest Atlanta folks here as well, but you have the floor.
I mean, I definitely want Invest Atlanta also to speak to this, but this is leading by example. And this means that when we tell other entities that we like to work with them in communities in order, for development, to spur development, that we're not holding them hostage, that we are checking our list off for our TADs and we're getting things completed. My only ask was that we finish up the fire station, the extra fire station for the city, which was 37, right? I get 36 and 37 mixed up, which is already, half done. It looks absolutely beautiful because that was supposed to also, that was a portion of this TAD, and that is actually happening. So my words here mean we need to be in a posture with our TADs of actually doing what we say we're going to do. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, so we can always have partners in developing our city. So I am leading by example here, so move approval, and I would love to hear from them.
All right, there's a motion from Councilmember Overstreet. Let me go ahead and get a second on that one. Seconded from Westmoreland, and then I'll invite the Invest Atlanta folks to come up.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosalind Rubens Newell, and I am the General Counsel at Invest Atlanta, and I have with me Jennifer Fine, who's our VP for redevelopment, for community development, and Nino Chiappetta, who's our Chief Financial Officer. We have had the honor of serving as the city's redevelopment agent for all 10 of the TADs. Part of our responsibility is to, every 3 years, conduct a completion analysis on the TADs to see if they've been substantially completed. And as you know, Princeton Lakes and Atlantic Station were reported to you earlier this year, as substantially complete. The state law says as long as all the redevelopment costs have been paid, and so the last debt that was outstanding was a loan for the fire station and the grant to the city for the fire station. All of that was paid, and so we are recommending that the city council take the action to close the TAD once that's done, and we're recommending effective June 30th. Then Mr. Chiappetta will recommend to the city CFO to pay any remaining funds in the special fund in proportion to the city and Fulton County. And as you might know or remember, APS did not participate in this TAD.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shuck, you have the floor.
This is very disorienting for me. I want to thank Ms., and I'm serious, this is great news for the taxpayers. And we've been agitating to, as Ms. Collier Overstreet said, be mindful of the fact that there should be a beginning, a middle, and an end to all of these. But I want to thank you and Invest Atlanta for providing me with a day I thought I'd never see. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved as amended. So thank you to the author and to Invest Atlanta. All right, let's keep going. 23-R3423. There is a substitute that changes the caption, so I'll read that in and make the motion. It's a resolution by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, chartered transportation services with 2 vendors designated as contract number listed A with First Student, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $250,000.00. Contract number listed B with Harmon Brothers Charter Services, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $150,000.00. On behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a term commencing on June 1st, 2023 through July 31, 2023, in an aggregate amount not to exceed $400,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the account number listed herein and for other purposes. Move to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us. Mr. Voss. if you'll tell us
Thank you,
about
Mr. Chair and members of council. This year, DPR will be offering its 43rd season of Camp Best Friends. We open up our camp to over 2,800 students at over 17 locations, and we offer up to 25 field trips per week for that program, which is really amazing. Many of these trips are not that far, but they could be within 100 round-trip miles, and so we require chartered services to get the kids to the locations as part of the camp. We worked with DOP. We sent a solicitation out and actually received multiple bids back, 2 of which require legislation. As we actually spoke of earlier, they're over $100,000. That's to First Student and to Harmon Brothers. But there are 2 others that we'll use as backup that are under that limit and do not require council approval. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer, but thank you for your consideration.
All right, questions, discussion, or a motion? Yep, Mr. Shook.
And so we're reducing the number of vendors?
The actual number of vendors will be 4. There's only 2 that require the legislative approval, sir. Yes, sir.
I move approval.
All right, motion from Shook. Is there a second? Seconded by Collier Overstreet. Let's open the vote to approve on substitute, please. Vote closed. All right, votes closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. Next item is number 26, 23-R3504. There is a substitute as well. The caption has not changed, though. It is a substitute resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number listed to pay for license fees for the construction of the Atlanta Police Department SWAT office, task order number listed for license fees for emergency water mitigation services at City Hall, and task order number listed for license fees for emergency water mitigation services at the municipal court. Under contract number listed, job order contracting consulting services with the Gordian Group, Inc. on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $238,125.85. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. The substitute corrects APD award number and the Department of Enterprise Asset Management funding stream. I'll make the motion to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. Commissioner, you have
Greetings again, Chair and members of the committee. Remy Santil, Commissioner, Department of Enterprise Asset Management. The purpose of the legislation is as stated to pay for the consulting fees for the project stated.
questions for the commissioner? All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Collier Overstreet.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, next item is 23-R3505, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number listed to pay license fees for the Atlanta Detention Center exterior wall waterproofing project for contract number FC 10276 job order contracting consulting services with the Gordian Group, Inc. on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $68,789.64. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Commissioner.
Again, this legislation is for the licensing fee for the project at the detention center.
All right, motion from Collier Overstreet, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item is 23-R3506. And colleagues, I'm going to, if there's no objection, I'm actually going to ask to take 28, 29, and 30 together. This is a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number 5 for contract number listed, citywide architectural planning, design, engineering, and construction phase services with Fitzgerald Collaborative Group LLC for City of Atlanta Condition Assessment Report on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $45,000.00. All work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. 23-R3507 is a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number listed for contract number listed, job order contracting services small with Job Construction LLC for the Atlanta Detention Center exterior wall waterproofing project on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $1,498,684.87. All work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. And 23-R3508, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the first renewal option for FC 10641 job order contracting services small for contracts FC 10641B, Brown and Root Industrial Systems, Inc., FC 10641H, Johnson Lowe Skyline Atlanta Jock Contractors, LLC, and FC 10641I Jock Construction, LLC, to provide citywide construction, renovation, and other services to the Department of Enterprise Assets Management and other city departments listed in the attached Exhibit A on a task order basis in an amount not to exceed $5,000,000.00 per contract. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. All right, Commissioner.
So you want me to go one by one, or how do you want me to? Well, any questions relative to the projects? These are a lot of projects that are going on relative to work being done at the detention center and starting the project for the infrastructure bond program.
Any questions for the Commissioner on any of those three? Is there a motion? Motion from Collier Overstreet, seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote on those three items, please.
The vote is open. Vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. Those items are approved. All right, 23-R3509. There is a substitute on this one that does change the caption. So I'll read in the new caption and make the motion to bring it forward. It is a substitute resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute amendment number 2 for cooperative purchasing agreements number listed, citywide integrated security and video surveillance services with Convergent Technologies LLC, contract number listed, GC&E Systems Group, Inc., contract number listed, and NetPlanner Systems, Inc., contract number listed, on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management to add additional funding for the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, the Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department, and the Atlanta Department of Transportation to complete badge reader, video surveillance equipment upgrades, video system build-out, and access controls in an amount not to exceed $637,468.47. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. The substitute adds Atlanta Fire and then changes the cumulative amount. I'll make the motion to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Collier Overstreet. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us. Commissioner, in your comments, if you can address the there's been a lot of different dollar amounts that we've added along the way. If you could address that as well, please.
Right, so this is just amendment just to execute a second amendment to our low voltage and networking needs. So the substitute was for the and rescue department for their video, what you mentioned, for their project that they got going on for that. And the 515,000 is for our additional needs for our additional projects that we have relative to some of those fire stations, things of that nature that we're doing as well.
All right. Yeah, again, this is one that, as we talked about when the last paper came through, it started off with one amount, and then we've added a lot of departments and a lot more money on it. So just raising that for everyone's awareness.
Yeah, I guess once everybody starts to knowing that these services are available, everybody starts jumping onto it.
Yeah. So I would just push on you and the Department of Procurement. There are a lot of contracts like this.
Like this,
You know,
right.
we'll have multiple departments, multiple users. So the better we can anticipate that before the RFP goes out, we might end up enhancing kind of what we get.
Right, and this is a co-op, yeah, this is a co-op.
Yep. Okay. Other questions? Did I hear a motion from somebody? Motion from Collier Overstreet, seconded from Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, 23-R3510, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal number 5 for FC 7216, natural gas support services with the Georgia Municipal Association for natural gas consumption services on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management for a term of 1 year beginning June 12, 2023 through June 11, 2024, at a price not to exceed 0.8 of 1 cent per therm for gas delivered under the Atlanta Gas Lights rate, GIL, I guess that's what it is, and 0.3 of 1 cent per therm for gas delivered under Atlanta Gas Lights rate interruptible, all funds to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Commissioner.
Yeah, so this legislation is to authorize the fifth and final renewal for the company. They go out and get us the best rates for our gas.
Questions? Motion from Shook, second from Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Yeah, Councilmember Collier Overstreet, sorry.
Just want to say, good job bringing this in a whole month and a half early. Yeah, we usually, make mention when it's retroactive, so just want you to know I appreciate you bringing this in on time and early. All right.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. And thank you for highlighting that, Councilmember. All right, 23-R3511. We have a substitute for this, but the caption does not change. I'll read it in to make the motion. Substitute resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, street-based and common good sanitary services study with Stearns, Conrad, and Schmidt Consulting Engineers, Inc. on behalf of the Department of Public Works pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a term of 18 months in an amount not to exceed $325,925.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. Make the motion to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. The substitute is before us. Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wan and committee members. Al Wiggins, Commissioner of Public Works. This legislation satisfies two issues. One, we were asked to conduct this study following the solid waste litigation that was settled last year. Additionally, while conducting the study, we also added our services as it relates to common good services such as curbside receptacle maintenance and other right-of-way maintenance-related issues. And so this study helps us to really conduct an evaluation to understand the true cost of the services that we provide and also to be able to identify any potential efficiencies in our current operations.
All right, questions from the Commissioner? I'll start. So what's the timeline on this in terms of if this gets approved? Because I feel like this is a lot later than in my mind we were going to launch this. And then what does it mean on the backside in terms of the findings in anticipation of being able to implement, particularly any sort of savings or efficiency measure. So can you walk me through that, please?
So, yes, sir. So that's a great question. Although we weren't able to get the legislation or the contracts executed as quickly as possible, the timing is perfect, primarily because this week we launched our vehicle telematics software program that will allow us to look at the efficiency of our routes, looking at our transfer stations, seeing if they're at the most convenient locations. And so that will definitely have an impact on our costs and as we transition to our automated side-loaded trucks. So that will have a significant impact, possibly for the reduction of our cost. So we wouldn't have had that information had we began this process a little bit earlier. As it relates to being able to execute this contract, we're comfortable that we will be able to get all of our internal signatures by the 19th of May. And the recommended vendor has stated that they're ready to go, that June 1st is when we anticipate that they will be able to mobilize and come to the city and observe our operations. We've asked that after the initial 30 days, they give us their initial findings. Of course, that won't be the complete report, but that will help us to understand the next steps and any other issues that they may be able to identify that we weren't aware of.
I noticed that there's a term of 18 months, but I'm assuming that they're finding that that's just kind of the outside limit in terms of timing. When do we think within that 18-month period will we get the bulk of their recommendations?
So we're hopeful that within the first 12 months that we will have a completed report. As you stated, 18 months is kind of our not to exceed expectations. Just, keep in mind that we're conducting a study of what the next 5 years will look like. And when we initially began this process, I know there was a desire to wrap this process up a lot quicker. Trust me, at a department level, we would like to have this information as quickly as possible so we can make decisions outside of just using professional intuition. This will help us to get the data that we need to get closer to the pen of our true costs. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish.
So, again, we are confident that by this time next year, going into the FY25 budget prep process, we'll have the information that we need to be able to identify, what the true cost.
I mean, you hit exactly what I was going to raise next. It's just, if you remember, when we did the rates, we did a two-year timeframe on it with the anticipation of being hopefully in a position that we could look at and make adjustments going into the what would be the FY25 budgeting process. So I just kind of remind everybody about that timeline, and to the extent that this effort can be accelerated or at least aligned with that timing, it would probably be smart for us, given what we did with the previous legislation.
The other benefit, Chairman Wan, is also that the firm that will assist us with this work has a lot of our legacy data, so it won't be very difficult for them to begin the work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Shook.
Okay, well, that last part touches on my question, and we did talk about this pretty comprehensively in utilities yesterday, but my question is prompted by an audit presentation we got suggesting that there's certain types of data the department has not been able to collect. And so my question is, when this company shows up, are they going to have ready access to everything they need, or are they going to have to develop some of what they're going to subsequently need?
As far as we know, they will have the data that we need. And I'm not sure if you're referring to any type of information that we can export from the telematics software. Even with the telematics software, it's going to take us a good quarter before we can really analyze the information that we have. But as far as we know, they will have the information that they need to conduct the proper analysis.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I don't think so yet. Mr. Winston.
Do you anticipate, I'm sorry, Commissioner Wiggins, do you anticipate that after the first 30-day assessment period that at least city utilities may be able to get an update on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve on substitute. Is there a second? seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. Next item is 23-R3512, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, temporary supplemental labor with Georgia Works, Inc., First Staffing, Inc., ED Staffing, LLC, and Center for Employment Opportunities, Inc., on behalf of the Department of Public Works pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $1 million and 0 cents. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes. I understand from the department we wish to hold this.
That's correct, Chairman, due to, we're waiting on the iPro to
Oh,
return.
that's right, okay. Motion from Shook to hold, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote. Oh, Mr. Westmoreland.
Just a question while we're voting. When do we expect to get the iPro? Before the next committee meeting?
You know, I will have to speak with the Department of Procurement and Department of Law. I'm not certain.
All right, the motion's been made and properly seconded. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item will be held. Next item is 23-R3513. We have an amendment for this. I'll read it in and then I'll make the motion to amend. It is a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a cooperative purchasing agreement with, I believe it's Lytix, to be designated as contract number listed, driver risk management system pursuant to Section 2-1602 at SEEK, utilizing Sourcewell, State of Minnesota Local Government Agency contract number listed to provide equipment, service, and support for the driver risk management system for a term of 2 years and 0 months, effective April 1, 2023, and ending March 26, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $4,412,110.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to amend. The months effective actually should be June 1st, 2023, and so we'll change that. This changes it in the caption and in the body. Motion from Juan, second by Bakhtiari. Let's open the vote to amend, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The paper is amended. I have down that Mr. Deloach. Yeah, if you'll come up and tell us about the paper, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jerry Deloach, the Chief Risk Officer of the Office of Enterprise Risk Management in the Department of Finance. The piece of legislation before you this afternoon is seeking authorization to enter into a new contract with Lytix, who will be the service provider for our driver's risk management system. The driver's risk management system is a part of our overall safety program, where we're looking at the driving behaviors of our drivers, and it's captured by video and is maintained in a database that we're able to provide coaching and to review the driving activities of our drivers. In addition to the driving behaviors, there are other activities that are part of our new driver risk management system that includes some items that that the fleet department asks for. It also includes a driver identification system as well. This is a cooperative purchase, and as part of our market research, we reviewed 5 contracts that came from 3 different providers. In the final analysis, we looked at 3 actual contracts that were considered, and we ended up with Lytix. We took in consideration the statement of work that we developed compared to what the providers were able to offer us, as well as the amount that they were asking for, as well as the services that they were able to provide. And that is what the recommendation is for this afternoon.
All right, questions for Mr. Loach. I have a couple. So who are we using now for this?
Lytix was our previous provider,
Okay.
and we stopped using them in June of 2022
Okay.
because we were using 2G cameras, and those cameras are obsolete. And in the interim, the cameras have remained in the vehicle, but they were not being fed into the cloud system. We still had access to any information that occurred on the cameras, but with this new contract, we'll now have that information immediately available to us and as a part of the cloud system.
So is it utilizing the same cameras that were already
No,
there? This is
we're
brand
not.
new
We're not using, no, we're not.
And then I remember when we first talked about this was my previous term on council. There was a really robust kind of program around analyzing what the findings were and then, implementing both training or as sometimes just conversations with, I don't want to call them chronic.
The driver.
Yes, thank you. Just, those that might have more incidents than he, she, or they are
Yeah.
having. So is that still going on?
That is still part of what we asked for, is that they look at the, two parts to your question. They will look at the video and analyze it and see whether or not there's actually what we call an infraction. And then as part of our internal coaching from the various departments that are participating in it, then they'll have coaching activities with the respective employee.
My last question is, which departments are covered by this?
The best answer is that all departments except for the police department, the employee HR because of the employee assistance program, and did I leave anybody out? Corrections. But all other departments participate in it.
Thank you, Mr. Loach. Other questions? Yeah, Mr. Sook.
So and how does APD handle it? Because Lord knows.
That's a conversation. That's a conversation that we intend to engage in APD as we embark on this new system. Previously, when we rolled it out in 2016, but I think it was for security reasons. Kathy, was it for security reasons that APD? It's something similar to the sensitivity of what they did, and they were opted out of the program. The reason HR was because of the employee assistance program. We didn't want employees who were going for services to be identified in corrections as well. But we hope to have conversations with APD. We do know of other jurisdictions where their police department participate in the driver risk management system program. And so it is our goal to have that conversation. And if we come back, we'll come back and report on that. But we do intend to have that conversation.
Mr. Winston.
Okay. Do you know roughly how many vehicles this contract covers, and if it will also cover what I'm presuming will be a net increase in vehicles in our next fiscal year?
16, is it 1,600? 2,700.
Okay, 2,700. And will that also cover any additional vehicles being added to our fleet?
Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Other questions?
And one other thing I do want to do is introduce two people who are part of the Office of Enterprise Risk Management team. That's Kathy Lloyd. Kathy has been engaged with the program since its inception in 2016. The new person that we have is Pam Lippett. She recently joined the office as the Deputy Chief Risk Officer for Safety, and the Driver Risk Management System is a part of our overall safety program. And so as we roll out the new program, Kathy will be transitioning those duties to Pam. And we also have what we call liaisons with the various departments, program managers. And so each department that has the cameras, they have a representative that also works with our office for implementation of the program.
Other questions or a motion? I'll make the motion to approve as amended, seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved as amended. Thank you, Mr. Deloach.
You all.
All right, next item is 23-R3514, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta Chief Financial Officer to execute agreement number 1 with Prudential, now known as Empower, for contract number listed 401A Defined Contribution Plan and 457B Deferred Compensation Plan Management in an amount not to exceed $1 million and 0 cents, effective June 1st, 2023, for the term of 1 year with the option to renew for 1 additional year term at the sole discretion of the city and for other purposes. Administration has asked that we file this. I'll make the motion to file. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item will be filed. Next item, 37, which is 23-R3515. There is a new substitute with a new caption. I'll read it in and make the motion. Substitute resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta to, on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, to accept a donation of $3,500 and 0 cents from Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta to support new signage for the John Wesley Dobbs Plaza on City Park property at 4th Street Northeast to be deposited into the cash pool bank account and posted to account number listed for the Public Art Trust following receipt thereof and for other related purposes. Move to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Substitute is before us. There's a motion from Westmoreland to approve on substitute, seconded by Shook. If there are no questions, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. That's the way to do it. All right, let's keep going. 23-R3516, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed Crime Laboratory Management System with Justice Tracks, Inc. on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $129,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. Ms. Pascal, you have the floor.
This contract is to execute a new agreement for the management system of the Crime Lab. And I have with me the director of the Crime Lab to answer any specific questions.
All right, any questions from my colleagues? A motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Westmoreland. Councilmember Bakhtiari, you have the floor.
Would this be able to do things like assist with the backlog that we currently have in rape cases?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Director Candace Walker. Yes, it will help with our efficiency. It will also allow us to be able to give the reports to the court without them having to contact us to specifically request them over the phone.
Any questions? All right, there's a motion. Did y'all, I said it, but I can't remember. Okay, thanks. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote's closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The item is approved. All right, colleagues, before we go to dual referreds, I want to go back and pick up the 2 ordinances that we were waiting for the substitutes for. Without objection, I'm going to take them both together. First one is 23-01206, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $3,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large and District 2 carry-forward accounts to Midtown Neighbors Association and for other purposes. And 23-01209, it's an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the transfer of $17,500.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to the Post 2 at-large expense account and for other purposes. I'll make the motion to bring both substitutes forward. Seconded by Westmoreland. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitutes are before us. If you want to make the motion. Motion from Westmoreland to approve both on substitute, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote's closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. Those 2 items are approved on substitute. All right, that takes us now to dual referred items. We have 2 of them that came out of public safety. First one is 23-01198, an ordinance by council members Boone, Faroki, Amos, Dozier, Bakhtiari, Hillis, Collier Overstreet, Lewis, Bond, and Westmoreland to provide that all eligible employees of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department shall be entitled to all of those workers' compensation benefits, no more or no less, as provided under state law at Title 34, Chapter 9 of the Official Code of Georgia, the Georgia Workers' Compensation Act, and that all such employees who suffer an injury by an accident within the period of employment at a place where the employee may reasonably be in the performance of their duties, and while they are fulfilling those duties or engaged in something incidental thereto, shall be entitled to all of those workers' compensation benefits, no more or no less, as those provided in accordance with the Act and for other purposes. This came out favorable out of public safety. There's a motion from Winston to amend to add his name. I'd like to add my name as well.
Anyone who
Anybody doesn't want to, that isn't already on there. I think it's just us 3. All right, there's a one in. Okay, so there's a motion to amend by Winston, seconded by Collier Overstreet, to add the 3 of our names onto that. Let's open the vote to amend.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The paper is amended. All right, and I understand from the department, the finance department would like to hold this for 2 weeks certain. There's a little bit
Correct.
more conversation that need to be had with HR.
Yes, HR and risk management. Yes, thank you.
Okay, there's a motion from Bakhtiari to hold. Is there a second? Seconded by Collier Overstreet. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item will be held. Yes, Mr. Shook.
Yeah, just a brief comment. It was great seeing Mark, seeing Mark today. For those of you who weren't here then, he worked in Cesar Mitchell's office, decided it wasn't enough, so at the old age of whatever he was at the time, decided he was going to join the fire department, and where he was promptly nicknamed Pops, and I did not know the extent to which he had risen up the ladder, gotten his nurse's degree during his spare time. I just, a fine public servant and a finer person.
Thank you, Mr. Shook. I guess none of us can ever say we're tired after that. All right, and Ms. Carr, 2 weeks will be enough, right? We'll be able to move on this.
We should be able to move at that time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item is 23-R3427, a resolution by council members Bakhtiari, Dozier, Faroki, Amos, Boone, Lewis, Bond, Westmoreland, urging the representatives of Georgia State Government to mandate body-worn cameras for all responding Georgia Bureau of Investigation and Georgia Patrol officers and for other purposes. This came out favorable out of public safety. Any comments or questions? Is there a motion from one of the authors? Motion from Bakhtiari to approve. Is there a second? I'll second it. Let's open the vote if we're ready.
The vote is open.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Oh, sorry. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved, and we'll move forward. All right. Ms. Lindo, I believe we do not have anything coming off of held.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Yay. And that takes care of all of our legislative items, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, that takes us now into general remarks. I will remind everybody that budget season starts. Do we have an idea when we're going to get the budget books? I guess that's the first question.
So I'm looking at the budget chief, Mr. Gabriel. Monday is when we should have that. And in addition, the physical condition of the city is Wednesday, May 3rd.
Okay, all right. Well, speaking of May 3rd, I believe that is the first date of our budget hearings. The budget calendar has been placed on everybody's calendars on council, and I believe Ms. Santana Kempson Wright was going to put it on our city council website as well for reference for anybody who wants to participate. And tune in either live, online, or join us in person. There are a number of public hearings that are scheduled in that for input, particularly when it comes to the millage rate. The other thing is just a reminder, on Monday in city and committee on council, we will begin the process of appointments for the Budget Commission. I believe we have 2 appointees from city council, including the finance executive chair, so 3 total. So if you're interested, be sure you let Councilmember Bakhtiari know so that they can manage that appointment process. But it is fast. Budget season is fast upon us, and it's a fast process. I will, one last thing about that, just we had a great process last year. If you're even thinking, like if it's just even a twinkle in your brain right now of a potential amendment ask, we ask that you socialize that, let either me or Councilmember Shook as vice chair, Mr. Pace, or the CFO or deputy CFOs know so that we can manage that process. The idea would be that we work through the entire budget, all the amendments at the Finance Executive Committee meeting prior to the June 20th full council meeting and grind out the sausage there. So any questions on budget? I've said it twice today, yeah. Any questions on the budget piece? Okay, yes. Then I'll open up to any other general remarks for the good of the order. All right, seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.